New friends, a great venue, free caffeine. As you can tell that story, and a bunch of people from our company are going to show up. At Pique, we believe that life is better when new experiences enter the everyday. So what we do is we guarantee that our users always have a plethora of great ideas about what to do. Free time is a precious commodity. We all know that. We're mindful about it. We want to spend it as best we can. But invariably, when the weekend comes, we have a free night or it's beautiful weather, we always have more questions than answers. This is us. This is typical. Where should we go? What should we do? What's going on? Where might I find adventure? We have questions. And just like any time we have questions, the reason we have these questions is because we have no answers. It's not that we don't try. The most industrious, the most energetic of us might use Google search, social media, newspapers, bloggers, curators, magazines to try and help us know what to do, to give us a lot of different ideas. But each of these and all of these fail for one reason or multiple reasons. First, because they're just not designed for discovering things to do. Second, if they have some ideas, they're wildly incomplete. They don't tell you comprehensively what you can do in St. Paul or Minneapolis. Third, most of them don't help you remember that great discovery. Ooh, that's neat. Great, now it's Friday night. Totally forgot about it. And fourth, when it comes to the weekend, when it comes to that Friday, when it comes to Sunday morning when you're looking for an opportunity, you always have to do more work. You have to go search. You have to pull. You have to go find an answer right then. It's work. So Pique was founded on the fundamental concept that discovery happens best through community. Word of mouth. And by word of mouth, we mean the kind we inherit, not the kind we seek. So not me asking my neighbor what plumber they use, but rather my dad telling me, you have to read this book, or my friend insisting, you gotta check that series out on Netflix. So Pique has built a brand new social platform. It's a social platform that is very simple. It's very narrow. It's founded on one message, and that message comes about because of a coupling of two questions. This is it. You answer these two questions, and that's all you can do. Where are you? And what are you doing? Not only do we keep it narrow around that one message with those two questions, we constrain you further. When you say where you are, we check it. We use your location services to make sure that you're there. So you can't post about the Guthrie when you're at home in your pajamas. And when you tell us what you're doing, we make you do it with tags. Keep it lean. Just tell us the good stuff. Tasty empanadas, beautiful people, cheap drinks. We want to facilitate a simple dialogue over and over again between somebody that produces a social post and someone that consumes it. The producer says, hey, I'm here, look at me, this is cool. And the consumer, the viewer of that, should see it and say, looks awesome. I want to do that. I'll save that one for later. So Ellie might post that she's inhaling a burger at Parlor Bar. I'm interested. I'll save that one. Or Jack might tell me that she's finding great shoes at Mill City Running. Yup, that's me. Save it. Or Nick might brag that he's chasing cougars at the W. I'm married. No interest. Nick, you're married too, dude. Or our colleague Devin, who's not here, might post that he's bearing his pasty white belly at Calhoun Beach. That's me too. Save it. Next time in the sunshine, I'm there. We want to create one social platform that's local, that's all about discovering things to do and saving them for later. Like any new marketplace, and particularly any new social platform, we have one massive challenge. It's not my phrase, it's well known. It's the empty room problem. If we have compelling content, users are interested. But we need users to create compelling content. So at Pique, we've built 3 outstanding reasons to use the app before people show up, before your friends are there, before the masses arrive. First, to couple with this discovery of great activities and great experiences, we intend to deliver the best event discovery experience in the Twin Cities. The best. We've built insane technology to scrape Facebook, Eventbrite, Meetup, and all sorts of bespoke calendars, Google Calendars, Squarespace, WordPress. We aggregate these in a central database, we decorate them, we augment them. One place, so you can find not just those great experiences, but also the events that might pique your interest. The second thing we've done is before the masses showed up, we've enlisted many dozens, maybe by the time we go live, a couple hundred of the most influential tastemakers in the Twin Cities. These are the people who actually do stuff. They do the great stuff. So they're going to be on the platform before lots of people arrive, telling you what they do, so you can do that. Wow, looks awesome. Save that one for later. And then finally, and this is a big one, we've created a brand new social communication that does not exist globally today in social media. We call it a drop. Drops are really simple, but they're powerful. Drops are just a digital Post-it note. I create it at a venue or a location, and whoever I create it for can only consume it at that venue or location. It's got context. It's authentic. I can target a specific person. I can target my followers, or if we're one of our special venues, or an individual with whom Pique has a relationship, then we can target the public. Easy examples. I'm at St. Paul Public Library. Before I leave today, I'll leave a drop for my 13-year-old daughter. So next time she's here, she sees a note from her dad saying, "Glad you're here, head down, work hard, no deadbeat boys." I can literally think of hundreds, if not thousands, of use cases for drops. For loved ones, they'd be little Post-it notes with messages or pictures that are cute or useful or funny. For friends, they'd be helpful, witty, or little reminders about great nights we had together. For followers, they could be informative. They could provide guidance. And of course, I'd want them to be clever. And we can imagine all sorts of promotional material that is relevant to leave at a venue, because when you're at that venue, as a consumer, as a reader, you have a unique time and place for consuming that content. This isn't all just talk. We're weeks away from going live. We'll be in beta by the end of the year in 4 different cities: the Twin Cities, Chicago, Austin, and Dallas. We'll stagger going live in those 4 cities, starting in early 2017 at quick pace. And we very much have our eye on South by Southwest in Austin, because we think this is extremely relevant for that community. And longer term, We intend to dominate the Twin Cities by the time the Super Bowl runs around. We're following a standard business model for this type of industry. Prove residence, repeat, scale, monetize. People will have questions about monetization. This model insists that A, you believe that there is commercial value to this marketplace you're putting together, and we very much believe that. And B, that you don't spend resources or even too much imagination building infrastructure or solving problems around that monetization until you've got an enthusiastic community that swears by what you have. Before I take your questions, I just want to encourage you to think of Pique twice. The first is the next time you have free time. Maybe that's this weekend, maybe it's tonight. Are you that person with all the questions? Invariably you are. Wouldn't it be nice to have in your pocket a store of all these great ideas of things to do that you've saved for yourself? And then secondly, as you bounce around the city, think of how you might drop little Post-it notes for your friends and followers. Thank you very much, and I'm anxious to take your questions.
Thank you, Peter. Very interesting. So, as we ask all of our presenters at this group, what is it that the 1 Million Cups community can do for you?
Great question. Thank you. Determining the greatest value we can get in the short run is feedback on user experience. Though we have a simple intention, finding a user experience that is elegant and easy has taken quite a bit of work. So those of you that either are experienced in critiquing UIs or UXs, or that might have associates that are, would be extremely valuable to us. Also, we need 3 types of beta users. We need testers, we need people that go out a lot and can create new content, and we need people that are associated with venues and other places other destinations for free time. So to the extent that you are associated with organizations or friends like that, or have networks in that capacity, that'd be extremely useful to us. Question?
Right here. So this is really good, and I'm going to make a suggestion to all of you with this group. Drop everything but drops. Focus solely on that. That is different than everything else that's out there. Aggregating all the rest of it is too much like Foursquare / Twitter, all of that. The drops thing, you can use it for advertising. You can leave the secret messages for your friends or loved ones that happen across it if you're using all that. Events and anything like that can use it if you're on drops. It gives them something, drops a Post-it note that links them to somewhere else. That's the type of thing that differentiates you from everything else. The Pique stuff and the aggregation, that's great, but that can be something you work on after drops gets a lot of people, and add that in, saying, oh, now drops says what's going on and where are their drops. But drops is gonna be the thing that's gonna drive users, and it's gonna drive money better than aggregation, and the rest of it is.
We don't entirely disagree with you. We've pivoted a few times, and we have discovered drop as an idea quite recently, and like you, we think it's a powerful idea. Ooh. Yep. Yep. Right.
So remember that one part of a great idea can be the best idea rather than that. So
we very much are open to your point of view, and we're challenging ourselves along that line as we're moving forward. You want to get the mic? Or do you want? Oh. Can I take this one? So the question related to how we were funded. I started a company 10 years ago that's an options market maker, a financial trading firm that has about 100 people and a series of investors. I started that with a handful of partners. So when this idea came about and I decided to make a leap into this new enterprise, I reached out to some of those partners and some of that capital base to fund this as well. Frankly, it's an inexperienced capital base for this type of endeavor, but it is a capital base that tends to think about magnitude of funding differently than typical angels or early VCs. So there's good and bad in that.
While you were talking, I went on the predecessor app, Red Current. It's very cool. So my questions are, one is revenue stream, which is most likely advertising, but secondly is what kind of algorithm do you have for the order of the events that pop up in the app?
Both are great questions. So let's take those two questions independently. The first is about revenue streams. As suggested in the back, we think drops offer a unique opportunity because various venues might very well want to create drops that people see, or they might want to have drops that people create branded, or you could imagine brands, products, and other enterprises trying to associate with themselves with venues or regions at large or over a particular period of time. So I think they're unique. There's a unique opportunity for a potential revenue stream. Also, to the extent that we can solidify Pique's place as the central location, your digital home for discovering things to do, that's presents real opportunity in regards to affiliate ticket sales and other marketing opportunities related to venues, events, and other experiences. That was the first question. The second question is regard to algorithms, and it's really quite interesting. This is one of my early fascinations when we started Red Current before we rebranded as Pique. And because I thought we could develop an algorithm that very much predicted what events interest you, because that's where we started, in events. And it was probably my egomaniacism from predicting financial markets algorithmically, which is what we did at my other company, that I thought this would be an easy task. What we've found is, simply put, the statistical significance around the predictions of which events you want is low, and it's hard. Mostly because the dimensions that you can robustly present around events are not great. So it's very easy for me to identify this is a beer or brewery event, and there are some fanatics about beer and brewery events, or there's some people that just are not interested in that whatsoever. But within that genre, because the only differentiating thing we really have is venue and time, it's very hard for us to predict which events you're going to like. So we do have an algorithm in the back. It's mostly based on genres at this time rather than something more specific. That's the most powerful element of it. But that's something that we intend to work on quite meaningfully and evolve. Last point on this is, what is interesting though is you users, even if we could predict what events you like, what activities you like, what experiences you like, oftentimes, and perhaps most of the time, you would prefer to self-help. Because there's been a total void of tools for your whole lifetime to push targeted events, activities, and experiences in front of you, you've developed a habit of filtering the world and searching the world. So we've been conscious in our user experience to very much support that as well, because that's where your expectations are. Yes.
You're playing in a very, in a space with a lot of big fish, okay? And the question always is how can you become, you know, how do you stay alive, and how do you actually get enough clicks to attract enough monetization to make this thing run? And the issue is when you're playing with all the big boys, they eat small fish. That means either you get acquired or you get killed. And so unless you've got the dollar resources and you can get speed to market, I'd like to have you address that a little bit.
Yeah, the question can sort of be I internalize the question this way. Whoa, this is a scary market. Are you scared? And my answer is, hell yes. Okay? This is a big boys game. 50 of the 50 entrepreneurs would stand up here and say they have a good idea, maybe one survives. Of the 10 entrepreneurs that you all agree, wow, that's an outstanding idea, maybe one survives. We intend to be that one. This does not exist. Drops do not exist. And in the world of big boys, you have Google search, you have Facebook events, you have all sorts of small event apps, you have Twitter, you have Instagram. Is that second slide the truth? Are you the head with the questions on Friday? I think you are. So they're failing today, and it's a real problem, and you care about it. So that's why we're working on it, because we believe we'll be the one. Am I scared? Yes. In regards to the ramp of funding, you're right that small fish don't last long. But in the Twin Cities, we may not have as much visibility of the tremendous appetite of venture capital that exists on the East Coast and the West Coast. If you can prove traction, you can raise real money, because lots of venture capitalists want to grow a small fish to a medium-sized fish with a beach that they control. And how you're going to spend your time, what can I do in my free time, how can I drop notes for loved ones and interested parties, we think that's a cool beach.
Hi, Pete. I just wanted to address your question about user experience. Have you looked into Steve Krug's work at all? He's a user experience consultant, and he's written a couple of great books about doing user experience yourself. The original book that he's most famous for is called Don't Make Me Think. And there's a book that is a pretty slim volume, I believe is called It's Not Rocket Surgery. There's definitely rocket surgery in the title. But I was part of a user experience team, and we use that to build our own homegrown user experience program, and that's pretty easy to do. So I'd recommend checking out those works. Yeah,
that's great advice. Nick's one of our designers. We have other people in the room that have been very involved in this process, so that's great counsel, and we'll look into it for sure. We'd also love to get your information so that you can critique us.
An applications type of question, I guess. I think I heard you say that you can target certain groups, like I can create groups on this network just like I can on Facebook or whatever, and I can target, for instance, I got golf buddies. I want them to know what course I played on today, and I'm here. Or I got old college buddies, that, and you can actually target groups with messages.
It's interesting that you bring this up. Actually, when we launch, we won't have groups. I can tell you that a year ago, I absolutely wore out my wife for a week talking about groups, because I think both private groups, what you're discussing, as well as public forums, are crazy underserved right now. My wife should be in a Western suburbs shoe shopping group. She should. She should know. She should be inheriting all these cool ideas about shoes and all these broadcasts about shoe sales because that's money for whoever wants to do that because she buys shoes. Yet it doesn't exist, and she's very active on social media. So, yes, we think that the use cases you describe are very important and exciting to us, but it's another bit of the user experience. It's another thing to put on there. It's another thing to control. It's another thing to teach users about. So when we first launch, we won't have it. We would love to be in a state where users like you are screaming at us to get stuff like that done.
Hi, over here.
Oh.
So do you feel like you have a lot going on with the app? Do you feel like you need to start, do you feel like you're at a good space? Are there a lot more features you're thinking of adding on, or you just mentioned groups?
You guys are asking questions almost like you've bugged our office. The question you ask commands more emotion at our office place than anything else. And we get religious about it. The user experience we deliver will ultimately be the answer to that, and you'll have to tell us by whether you use it or not. We would love to have a simple application. Share a picture with your friends. Connect with your classmates. Send a video that disappears in 30 seconds, right? The behemoths, post your resume. The behemoths of social media had one currency and one simple give and take when they were first founded. In regards to discovering things to do, we found that there's just too many things we have to cover. That there's a lot of things we have to cover to give a comprehensive experience to users. So we've tried to balance covering a lot of that with the need to have a simple user experience, and that's why I'm looking for your feedback. I think that's one of the things that drove the first question, which says, drop all of that complexity and focus only on drops because there's probably something there.
I actually
Yeah,
agree
we don't
100% with that.
again, we don't fundamentally disagree with that.
Maybe 2 apps.
We don't fundamentally disagree with that either. One of the reasons that we spell drop in a funny way is that we can trademark that word so that we could use it potentially in 2 apps.
I met with a business broker that only deals with internet sites. He owns some, buys and sells them. When you're in the free internet site world, or apps, either one, you kind of run into the situation that you give enough content to get enough clicks. So it's really about how does the monetization work? Because if monetization doesn't work, let's face it, you're not going to be around. And so it's really driven from the advertiser's perspective. They're paying for the click. So the functionality, it just has to be enough to generate clicks. It's not how functional, how many things are involved in a site. It's about making the site attractive to revenue. It's the opposite way that a software programmer or a user is thinking.
Right.
And that's the challenge you get kind of run into. So this concept of either multiple sites, so you got the capacity to sell them to not just advertisers, but to investors or an outright sale, creates that flexibility. And so the question is, are you trying to load up excessive functionality and not really focusing on the money?
Right. I think it's an interesting question, an entirely worthwhile point of view. I probably take a little bit of exception to your point of view in that I fundamentally separate a free website from a social app. I don't think those two are industriously similar in regards to their model. And in regards to social apps, I see only a few successes. And those few successes have nothing to do with banner ads. They have nothing to do with getting somebody to the site so they can accidentally run into advertising. Okay. What they have all proven is you need to deliver extreme value to a community. Snapchat delivered extreme value. Instagram, extreme value. Facebook, obviously, extreme value. While you're delivering value, you need to have an investor group that has an imagination and can see where this might go, because you're on a playground that has money all around it, right? Facebook was connect with your friends, but they saw we could be the news aggregator of the world. We could be TV of 2020. That's what Facebook investors saw, right? I think Twitter investors, as a perfect example, saw very much the same thing. And now it's time, guys, prove it. And they're failing a little bit, right? But that's the right time to address that. We very much believe, our investors very much believe, and other potential investors who we've previewed this with very much believe, if you can take control of, if you can plant a flag here, you have something that's monetizable through revenue of the type we discussed earlier. And that's what we need to do, is prove that you consumers are really interested in our solution.
I think we've said it a few different ways, but I'm thinking of my phone and opening apps, and before I know it, sometimes I'll be shutting down apps, and I've used 25 apps in the last 3 hours. I'm paying somebody, I'm looking for this, I'm trying to find out where to eat, I'm texting a friend, I'm posting a picture, and wouldn't you say, if anything, consumers are going to run out of bandwidth for another app that they have to click on. And if anything, I would say the market's going to go more towards a one-stop shop type app. If you look in China, there are apps where you can find a painter, send your friend money, send a picture, find a place to eat, and never leave this one app. So wouldn't you say, as much as we have these big players in the game, we really are kind of spread out, and there's a lot of different things going on. So to specialize is one thing, but are you worried that people are going to get tired of just opening another app, and you're just another app on their third screen that they're going to have to scroll over to before you make it to the first screen?
It's a great question, and my honest answer is, I'm not entitled to have a particularly worthwhile opinion. Okay, I'm just a guy. I personally can't really distinguish the user experience between open one app and go to feature 5 versus go to my phone and go to the 5th app. That feels same number of touches to me, and it feels like somebody who's just focused on that, the user experience around what I want, related things to do, can probably do it better than somebody who's diluted it across a bunch of other stuff. But certainly, like other businesses, horizontal integrations are worthwhile, and there are synergies there, and perhaps we'll find in user experience that's true. Certainly today, we've already reached the point where you don't have much interest in another app. The messaging we have to do, the marketing we have to do to get you to download and to engage and then to hook you very, very quickly is onerous. It's a high bar. So we presented a very serious challenge to ourselves. We do it because we very much care about this problem, and we think we have an interesting solution that deserves the light of day. Thank you all. This was wonderful.